All right, here we go again. TV and debates. What we want to start off first on is TV. I realize this isn't on the PowerPoint, but nevertheless, I want to add it. Um, Today, a lot of candidates turn to TV to advance their campaign. They do this in a number of ways. One of the ways they do this is through advertisements. The industry calls these spots. You and I are used to them as commercials. So these short ads or TV spots, they are important, but probably more important for the less well-known candidate. So the nation, the electorate, the nation with respect to presidency can get to know the candidate. They're probably more important in primary elections and less significant in the general election, because in the primary election, take Jimmy Carter for instance in 1976. Nobody knew who he was. Governor of Georgia. Georgia rarely makes national news. He was a peanut farmer. So these ads to introduce the nation Jimmy Carter were much more important than they were for his opponent, who was then Gerald Ford. The higher the office, the less effect TV spots have, because there's so much other information that comes into play. The lower the office, probably the more important they are, but you get too low and people won't be able to afford to use TV spots as a method to campaign. So that's kind of both sides of the gamut there. Some people have argued, some political scientists have argued, you can sell a president as if they were boxes of soap. Like, for instance, why do people pay more for Tide than they would for a no-name detergent? The argument is that because of the advertising around them, it's created an image and individuals buy that image. So the argument one political scientist made was we buy presidents as if they are boxes of soap. Others argue it's not that simple. Certainly TV has an impact on what we think, but it's not as simple as just marketing an individual in a given way, putting them in a pretty package, and the voters will buy it. Okay. Making the nightly news. So if candidates can't pay for commercials, one of the ways they can get TV time is making the nightly news. These are called visuals. A campaign activity that appears on the news. And so what campaign managers try to do is they try to get their candidate that they're helping to run, they try to get them to do something that is newsworthy each day, interestingly enough, before 3 p.m. so the candidate can make the nightly news with what they've done at 6 p.m. These are less informative than a TV spot or a commercial would be. Like, for instance, what does it mean when a candidate goes and shakes people's hand in the unemployment line? Does it mean that they're going to support unemployment or increase the benefits? Or just does it mean that they're just compassionate? See, it may mean nothing at all, depending on what they would or wouldn't do. All right, now we'll get right to the point here. Debates. Big issue within, particularly running for the presidency. So the problem with debates is here a candidate has literally spent at least 2 years trying to run for the president, and debates are uncontrollable. You don't know what's going to happen in the debate. Slip of the tongue, erroneous information, not appearing to know something, or with George W. Bush not being able to pronounce something, and all this work that you've attempted to achieve, or this goal you've attempted to achieve, and all this work you put in is just blown up in smoke. Al Gore appearing non-presidential in the debate between him and George W. Bush probably helped to sink his presidency or his presidential attempts. The very first debate was between John F. Kennedy and Nixon. It was an interesting dynamic that occurred here, which really brings us back to the issue of who's better looking. This is JFK and Nixon were debating at a time when TV was relatively new. Not everybody had TV in their homes. So the question became, who won the debate? And what political scientists found was those individuals who heard the debate on radio felt that Richard M. Nixon had won, and those individuals who'd watched it on TV felt John F. Kennedy had won. So why? Why did they think that? And again, the argument goes, the argument was JFK was a better looking candidate. Nixon didn't appear to be as relaxed. He wore this lazy shave that tried to give him a 5 o'clock shadow. There was sweat on his forehead. Just didn't appear to be as relaxed. But on the radio, he came off more polished than John F. Kennedy did. So that's a question. Who wins the debate? Which brings us to another question. What does winning the debate mean? Are we electing a national debater, or are we electing somebody based on their political ideology, what they would do as president of the United States? Now, ironically, in debates, the advantage goes to the unknown candidate. Why is that? So let's go back to Jimmy Carter. You had Gerald Ford. He was president of the United States after Richard Nixon. Everybody knew who he was. Jimmy Carter is this unknown candidate. And who is he? Well, the debates just gave the nation a chance to see who he was. If there was no debate, maybe Ford would have won the election. So there's a problem with debating an unknown candidate. Sorry for that little thing there. Why an incumbent president then debates is what it says. Why would an incumbent president, the president who currently holds a job, why would he debate somebody who is less well known? Well, there are a number of reasons why they may do this. With Lyndon Johnson, the reason he debated was because he was behind in the polls. He figured it couldn't hurt, and he tore up his opponent, and the debate ended up helping him. So that was good for him. George Bush the first, he's running for president, and he's running not just against Bill Clinton, but he's also running against Ross Perot. He did not think a debate would be fair. He's the incumbent. As we said earlier, the incumbent president is forced, rightly or wrongly, to defend the record. And he thought it would be unfair to have a debate where two people are attacking him as opposed to one. It would make it look like he was wrong. But Bill Clinton really wanted this debate, and so what he did was he sent a guy dressed up in a chicken suit with George emblazoned across the breast of this chicken, and this chicken would come into these George Bush campaign stops and will just heckle George Bush. And finally, the Bush campaign agreed to debate Bill Clinton if they'd stop sending this man dressed up in this chicken suit to heckle them. And so they debated, and Bush was right. This hurt him. Bill Clinton, same thing with Jimmy Carter. Bill Clinton, unknown governor to the nation from Arkansas, and it was during this debate that Bill Clinton really found a footing and really connected with the nation and eventually became president. Today, it seems that debates are here to say, despite the political axiom that you should never do anything to help your opponent. Why is that? Well, we talked about that relative to LBJ as to why he did it. We talked about relative to George Bush. And so it just seems like there's just been this long tradition ever since then. There's just been this long tradition that you debate your opponent. Interestingly enough, COVID-19 may have altered debates that they'll, I should say may have altered the debates that they'd be there in every election. It'll be interesting to see if Trump and Biden square off in a debate. If I had to guess at this moment, I would say that they would not square off in a debate, but time will tell. Okay, what does winning a debate mean? Just because you win a debate, there's the political commentators are always quick to judge as to who won the debate, but really, what does it mean? So do we vote for somebody who's the best debater? It says nothing about what they would pursue politically if they're elected to be president. Just because somebody is more articulate doesn't mean that the values that they espouse are right for the nation. There is some political commentators believe that Democrats try to be more intellectual and articulate, whereas Republican candidates try to be more relatable and folksy. It's kind of these core values and policies that they're after, as opposed to trying to show that they're smart. You never know exactly what's going to happen with the debate. One of the classic examples was when Ronald Reagan was running for his second term of office. At the time, if he was elected, he would become the nation's oldest serving president. One of the first questions that the moderator asked Reagan was if he was still young enough and fit enough to be President of the United States. And Reagan appeared to think for a moment. He said, "I will not make age an issue in this campaign. I refuse to exploit the youth and inexperience of my opponent." And everybody just laughed, even his opponent, who was Walter Mondale. And that just turned everything. Age was no longer a liability, it was an asset. And Mondale never recovered from that. There you have it. All right, so we're going to stop here. We'll pick up there next time. But in the meantime, I want you to watch a Saturday Night Live debate between George Bush and Al Gore, and then we'll have a little discussion. I'll say a few things about it in the next video. I forgot to say one thing. So in Canvas, you'll see a link to this video I want you to watch. It'll be below this video, which is, I believe, video 5. So just go to that link, watch the video, and then in video 6, I'll discuss it for a minute.